Hi, this is Dr. Rosemary Hyde, and I'm making this recording for Living Peace Now, and we're going to have a discussion on the agreement to always do our best. Doing my best is okay. After my daughter had grown up and left home, and I realized all the ways that I had not been the perfect parent that I wanted to be. The word sometimes I didn't encourage her. Sometimes I told her what to do when she was capable of knowing herself what she needed to do. And as she looked back on her childhood, I learned that there were some things that I had done as her mother that she didn't like very much. And so my first response, my first thoughts as I learned that were, oh my God, I was terrible as a parent. And I was angry with myself and I didn't like myself. And then, I really thought about it and I thought, wow, I always did what I saw and what I thought was the best thing for me to do. Obviously, I wasn't always right, but I still did the best I could do. And I couldn't do any more than that. I needed to forgive myself and know that, okay, I wasn't perfect. I wanted to be perfect, but I wasn't. I was human. I didn't know everything. I didn't always make the right choices. And sometimes I was either angry or tired or both. And I wasn't the perfect mother. I was just doing my best. And what I learned as I, went through that was just doing my best as, a way of putting myself down isn't a valid way to look at myself. I was doing my best, and that's good. And I'm human, and that's good. And I don't know everything, and that's good. It's all good. So I needed to learn to love myself, to accept myself, and even when my daughter hadn't forgiven me yet, I needed to forgive myself and to forgive her. So doing our best, generally speaking, that's what we do. Most of the time, most of us are doing our best. And someone else may not like what we're doing. And eventually we'll learn how what we've been doing may not be perfect for someone else, but it's still our best. And that's all. That is what we are asked to do. We're not asked to be superhuman. We're not asked to be perfect. Nobody is. And we still have to accept ourselves, knowing that we're not perfect. So in the book, there was a story at the very start of this chapter, which I think said it very nicely. It was a story about someone who wanted to be perfect. We all want to be perfect. This is a normal human being. But he went to his guru and asked the guru, I want to be perfect. I want to be enlightened. If I meditate 4 hours a day, how long should it take me to get to enlightenment or perfection? And the guru thought about it a little bit and he said, oh, probably 8 years. So the guy thought and he said, well, maybe I can get there sooner if I do more. So he asked the guru, so if instead of meditating 4 hours a day, I meditate 8 hours a day, how long will it take me then? And the guru thought about it again and said, well, if you meditate 8 hours a day, it'll take you probably 20 years to reach perfection. And so the guy was a little bit puzzled by that answer. If I do something that's supposed to be good for a certain amount of time, and it will take me so long doing that to become enlightened, how come if I do more, it'll take me longer to become enlightened? It's a reasonable question. And the guru said, because we're not here to give up our lives to become perfect. We're here to live our lives fully and to have joy and have love and happiness. And if we spend our whole lives doing something that we're not doing because we love it, doing something just because we think it's what we have to do, that's an obstacle to becoming perfect because we're not doing what we're here for. Does that story make sense to you? When we make mistakes, that's how we grow. That's how we get better, that's when we
Exactly.
learn. And, the bigger the pain, the bigger our opportunity to learn, to become better, to become wiser, to become more conscious. So, yeah, we make mistakes and we're not perfect, but we're here to become more perfect. And we do that as we live our life and enjoy the people we're with and the place where we are and the ways that we can make a difference in the world and in other people's lives with our actions. So, it's, we all go through this. We all want to be perfect, and none of us is perfect. And that's okay. All we can be asked to do is to do our best with what we know and what we're able in the moment. And as we practice, we'll get better, and that's wonderful. And we are here to love and to enjoy. We're not here to suffer and try to be something we're not. So basically, when we say that the fourth agreement is, I will always do my best, is to learn to love ourselves, mistakes and all, to know that we are here to grow and to learn and to love and to be of service and to feel joy. And we're not always perfect, and it's okay. So I think for most people, that part of it is something that when we think about it, when we become aware of it, when we accept it, and we accept that, okay, I am who I am, and God loves me this way. I am okay this way. And I promise, I agree to do my best and to be open to learning and getting better and evolving and growing. Then we are living a purposeful life. And yes, we're not always going to be impeccable with our word, which is the first agreement. We agree to it, but we're not always going to be able to do it. We forget, we get sick. Other people need us for something else, and we can't get to where we can do what we promised. Sometimes our feelings take us over, and we say something negative. And we need to know how to apologize. And it's okay. So, this is the fourth piece of the four agreements that we've been studying. And it's the part that helps us to be okay with ourselves and to forgive ourselves and to forgive other people, because other people aren't perfect either. And all of us as human beings, we make mistakes, we get carried away by feelings, we get tired, we misjudge what we can do in a certain amount of time, we get pulled away, so we don't get to where we were going when we said. We make assumptions. Do you remember the agreement? I'm not going to make assumptions. What's an assumption? What are we doing when we make an assumption? Anybody? Does anybody
I
remember?
think making assumption is a kind of prejudging that before we understand the facts, before we understand the reality, we judge before with ourselves and make some assumption. I think there's
Right.
like that.
Yes. And there's opportunities in every minute to make assumptions. And sometimes we do, even though we agreed not to. I mean, I find a number of times every day that I've made an assumption instead of asking what the fact is. I got to learn more about that. And when I make assumptions, that's a good opportunity to be wrong and not understand what's going on. And then the other one is don't take things personally. That is an assumption when we take something personally. We hear somebody say something or see somebody do something, and we think we know why they're doing it. And we think they're doing it somehow as a comment on us. But is that true most of the time? Why do we mostly do what we do or say what we do? Who are we thinking about? Kareem?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not hearing your words
You hear
because
me, ma'am?
you don't. Yes. So when somebody does something you don't like, who are they thinking about usually?
Yeah, there are certainly assumptions that we make, or we judge people based on their
Right. We judge people, yes. So
based on what we, yeah, based
based
on
on what?
what we see them, not what they are really going through. Based on we don't know in reality what they are going.
That's right. Because we're not in their head. We're in our head. So, you know,
Yeah,
not taking things personally means we are aware. We know the fact that we're in our head and they're in their head, and that's not the same place. And so we don't
right.
assume that we know why they did, what made us mad or what made us unhappy with them. We don't know
Mhm.
why they did or said that. How can we find out?
If we put ourselves into that person's shoes, I think we will somehow know the reality.
We get a much better image of the reality if we can take the time to do that. But what's an even better thing to do if we have the opportunity?
Sympathized.
I think
Yeah,
it would be better to ask him personally.
there you go. Ask them. Say,
Yes.
wow, you seemed maybe a little bit upset there when you said that. What's going on? Or, I got the impression that you were upset with me when you said that. Is that true? And almost always, they were thinking about something that you had no idea about and you would not find out about unless you asked. So it's an
Yes.
opportunity to check, to do a reality check with the other person. And not in a judgmental or unfriendly way, but just like, wow, that surprised me. And I felt a little bit hurt. What was going on? Knowing that probably something else in the moment was going on. So, for instance, you know Karen, right, who sometimes joins us. And she sent me a note this morning and she said, I hope you guys have a good class. I'm in Hickory with my brother who just had brain surgery. I didn't know that her brother was about to have brain surgery. which can be scary. And I said, oh, wow, I'm really sorry to hear about that. And I'll think about him. I'll hold him in prayer. And then she replied and said more and said, yeah, we're fighting with the hospital so that they will keep him another day until he's more stable, which told me a lot more about why, because her brother had surgery, why she's not planning to come today. She's needed someplace else. But I wouldn't know that if I hadn't just made a sympathetic comment and let it go at that. And so that's a good habit, to acknowledge what somebody might be feeling and, give them a supportive response and let it go with that. And typically, when you find out more, there is more. And it's, it helps you to understand why they wouldn't, even think of being in class today. And it's not personal. It's personal for her. It certainly isn't for us. So, it's the more experience we have being open to understanding what is going on with somebody else and being empathetic with what they're going through, the more we learn that the truth is we're not in each other's heads. We are one in terms of knowing how people feel in given circumstances. Somebody wrote to me today to tell me that a relationship that they had been in, they had broken up with each other. And I know from experience that, okay, that's hard to break up a relationship, even if it hasn't been going so awfully well. It's a big decision. And it's scary and it's sad. Even if it's good that you're breaking off with the person, even if it hasn't been working really well, you're still sad. And, so I said, oh, I'm sorry. I expect you're probably feeling sad, maybe a little relieved. And I just left it at that because I can, based on my own experience, know how others feel when certain things happen, because we all share the same feelings. We're all one in that regard. But I certainly have no idea what anybody else is thinking, because all of our imaginations are separate. So we know from a feeling standpoint if some certain things are going on, how they probably feel, how they might feel, but we never know what they're thinking unless we ask. So the other important aspect of doing our best is that we can think for years and nothing happens. But when we act, when we do something, then we see the response to that and we can learn and become wiser. So in life, it's generally, assuming that you've got a fairly good idea that what you're going to do is not going to get you killed immediately, most of the time. Taking action based on our thoughts and our feelings. The action part is important because that's where we can learn. We can think forever and not learn a thing because nobody else is in our head. So this agreement also highlights the importance for our experience, for our life, for having a life, of taking action when we have the opportunity to do so. And so that means when we're feeling discouraged about something, what might be a good action? I mean, unless we do something, we're going to keep feeling discouraged. What do you want to do when you're feeling that way? What's generally a good idea to do when you're feeling discouraged?
There happens a lot of time that we feel discouraged, and we don't get what we have been trying to get it. So I usually tell myself that it takes time to grow or to achieve a higher goal or something that
Right.
really is worthwhile or something worthy. So I encourage myself this way that everything valuable takes time, and it will happen in a good shape in a in the right time. The right time
Mhm.
will come,
That's true.
and
And how do you get out of the discouraged
the good thing
feeling?
will happen at the good time. So if it does not happen right now, it means that I'm not ready or I'm not
Yeah,
good enough at it.
I agree with you. But you can still move away from just feeling the discouraged. By doing what?
Also, I can share my idea
Yes?
uh, about that question. When I feel discouraged, what I'm doing, exactly, I am doing the work that I feel discouraged about that work. Because when I feel discouraged about the work, uh, the best way is this for me to feel courage is this to do that action, to do that work. And when I done that work, again, my feeling is going to become okay because when I do the actions, when I do that jobs that I feel discouraged about, of course, when I do that, there's going to change all of my feelings about that issue or about that job.
That's correct. In fact, doing something, anything, helps you to get past the feeling of discouragement. You can go out and take a walk in nature, and it will change how you feel. You can talk to a good friend, and it will change how you feel. Action is always the antidote to feeling. Thought doesn't change our feelings, but acting, changing what we're doing, gets us out of the feeling And then, because we're not stuck in the feeling, lets us move into doing something that is more satisfying. Abu, you have a question?
Yes, I was about to say that there are many things that there are many actions that we can do when we are discouraged. So the first thing that come onto my mind is to always stay positive because things didn't happen always as you wanted. And
Mm-hmm.
also there are a very important thing which is to be surrounded by some people who can always help you
Yeah,
to find solutions. Yeah.
right. And what somebody else has to do in that situation when you're feeling down isn't complicated. They can hug you or, smile at you. And it changes your feelings. It doesn't have to be complicated or difficult. Any action helps. Because at that point, when you're feeling bleh, you don't want to do anything. You just want to, you're kind of stuck. So even, you know, getting up and walking a little bit, moving, looking at something that gives you pleasure, seeing a friend and smiling, it's, it works. And it works for a very simple reason that there's only room in our brain for one thought at a time. And what our body is doing takes priority over whatever we were thinking. So it's a simple thing to know. Okay, I'm not happy right now. I'm feeling bummed. I'm gonna just look at the trees and pay attention. Or I'm gonna go outside and, be in a natural spot that I love. And that act of moving will shift the feelings and put you in a much better space. So that's another piece of this agreement, the awareness of action, physical movement as an antidote to negative feelings. And it's really simple, but you got to know that, okay, I need to move. One foot in front of the other, got to move it. And it's very helpful. It keeps you from being, you know, bogged down in discouragement or in anger or in fear or in shame or in any feeling. When you move your body, it shifts your feelings. So that's the presentation for this morning.